Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to have a look at the official release of Linux Mint Cinnamon. We're going to do the install, have a brief look at it, see if all these bugs are worked out. And we are going to do just a very brief first setup. And then we'll come back later on down the road the next couple of days here, and then we'll do a getting started with it if you are new to Linux and Linux Mint. So we are actually going to install this onto real hardware instead of using a virtualization. So my actual hardware I'm going to use is I have an SSD. I'm not going to pull it out, but I have an SSD. It's only 32 gigabytes, but it's here for just some basic testing stuff. And I just got the adapter for it so we can give it a try. This is the first time we're actually testing this guy out. I have already downloaded the ISO, created the live key, and now we are just ready to push the button and go ahead and hit the F11 key on my keyboard here, and then that's going to boot us up into our one-time boot menu. So you can see here our one-time boot menu. We have options to go with here, and I believe it's probably the first one's going to work for us. Let's go ahead and give that a quick try here. See if that gets us our install. And it looks like that did. Look at that. We have Start Linux Mint 22. We have a Cinnamon compatibility mode. We have OEM for install. We have boot from the next volume, and then there's some firmware settings. All right, so here we have landed on the desktop, and we're just going to go ahead and install. Well, there's our welcome screen has popped up. Let me close that out. Let's go ahead and double-click our install here. Our installation of Linux Mint should not be anything out of the ordinary here, so we'll have a brief look at that. So we're going to start just by picking our language there, and we'll do that, and make sure our keyboard layouts are good, so US English and just generic random US English. I'm going to install multimedia codecs. That is something that is oftentimes an option. If you don't do that, you may not be able to play back some movie and audio files. Now we can do the erase the disk. We can do something else. And under this, we have advanced partitions. We can use LVM, and we can encrypt it as well. I'm not going to bother with any of the advanced features for this particular instance, and we're not going to worry about encrypting this since it is still a test. However, it is installing to an SSD through a USB 3 port, so hopefully the installation runs well, and hopefully the distro works well also. Here we're going to pick our time zone. It's going to be New York. And then over here, we just need to enter our name. We'll just do this one. We'll set this one up kind of as a production using a better production password since it's not a VM. We can automatically log in. I generally don't recommend that because if you select automatic login, you might still have to enter your password to access some things, and that could be problematic. We could encrypt the home folder here as well. That's different from the full at-risk disk encryption system, which we had the option to earlier. But the reason I'm not going to bother with doing that right this second is because the again, it's just if you want to have extra protection, extra encryption, this would be really good. If you're like a journalist or somebody that's actually doing something that is much more higher stakes, then that makes more sense to do that. But we're not going to bother with that right this second. So we'll go ahead and hit our continue. And at this point in time, we can pull this down to see what is going on. It's going to start by copying files over into the drive. It might download some updates, although that's going to be something that we do when we turn the system back around. And then after that, it will be done. So this, depending on your hardware and the drive you're installing to, this could take anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to an hour or so. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video here, and we will come back when the installation is done. So the installation completed. I wasn't watching the clock, but I think it was less than 10 minutes, roughly 10 minutes, right around there. I usually hit continue testing and just restart. Doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and hit restart. Linux Mint will tell us to remove the drive. By the way, I think that the longer time, it took a while to copy files. I think that's because the drive, the install media, the USB port that I'm installing from is not a really good USB port. The one I installed to is really good, but I have known I've had issues on the one that I was my source. So not too worried about that. Once all the files copied, that thing was done in a heartbeat. And here we are on first startup. So let's go ahead and have a brief look at the first things that we should do. So the first step is we want to go ahead and launch our desktop colors. This is going to be in the new settings. This was put in not too long ago. It's not brand stinking new, but you can choose between a variety of different options that you have, and then you can do your various highlight colors. I'll do this one today. So we should have some brown and white highlights. Let me see what our folders look like there. There's where our folders look like there. We have this option here. This option here. Ooh, I like that option. We'll stick with that one. I like that. I do kind of want to see if I can get something that's more... I want to see if I can find something where we have not totally dark. I like the mixed, but I'm not seeing... what I'd kind of like to see is like the dark headers on the top, but oh well, we'll not worry about that. I think if I do something like that, that's kind of what I'm looking for. So we'll go ahead and stick with that one there, and we only have a few color options for that style there. And let's just go back to our traditional green. So we'll do that one. That's the one I like. So that's using the Mint L. You can choose whichever one you like. I do think the modern styles are a little bit nicer. I just wish we had something with a little darker header bars there. System snapshots is good to do. We're not going to do that here because the drive that I installed this on is not very big. It should be able to support it, but not well. It would take a lot of extra space. Secondly, I personally don't use system snapshots because my backup strategy is comprehensive enough that it's usually easier to reinstall the system and drop my backup over it than it is to just try and mess with the system restore points. But that's what it's there for. I'd highly recommend looking into it at some point in time and make your own decision. Driver manager, this is in case you have anything that might require any third-party drivers. Since I built this computer specifically for Linux, I'm not going to find anything. If you have like an NVIDIA card, you might find something there, or some obscure piece of hardware, you might find something there. As far as our update manager, we're going to hit launch. You can hit to it down here in the icons at the bottom. We'll go ahead and hit the launch, though. That's going to pull that up. First thing it's going to have us do is probably update the update manager itself. In this case, it didn't because this distro literally just dropped. There's nothing there. You see this option to switch to a local mirror. What this is going to do is it depends on where your software is going to be downloaded from. So all of the software on Linux comes from a couple different places. You can see that our Ubuntu base is actually coming from the UK, so I might want to change that to something more relevant here. So just pull this up and just give it a moment, and then you're going to see that a number of these guys will pop up. And then usually you want to pick something near the top of the list because you'll see that it's ranking them by the fastest speeds. So here's one, JMU. I do like picking from the universities when I can. That's a really fast repository. We're just going to go ahead and apply that one. We might want to do the same on our main, but this one here, packages.linuxmint.com, is probably going to be my best. Since they're both United States, I'm just going to go ahead and keep those. And then push that button to update your cache. And then that tells your system what software is available to be updated, what software is available to install. Those are the types of things that changing your mirror is going to do. Now that that is complete, everything here is up to date. We can go ahead and have a look at our Linux kernels. So by default, I think it ships now with 6.8. So we have 6.0.8 installed, and we don't have any other options. So that's actually pretty good. And no updates to do. As far as system settings, you can also get to your system settings by coming over here. Ooh, I do not like that light menu there. We have to rethink our themes. You can find them over here in your system settings, or if you happen to take that off of favorites, you can always just find it by typing in settings up there. Yeah, we're going to change that theme back. I'm going to go back to the more modern, traditional ones. Let's go with that one. I liked that one. We're going to do that. There we are. I like the darker menu there. That works nice. All right, anyway, let's go back into our system settings. Inside of here, we can do backgrounds. So this is the various backgrounds we have. Linux Mint always ships some of the most beautiful backgrounds you'll ever find. So we'll just go ahead and have a look at this. Here you go. Here's the progression of eclipses. Hey, I actually saw some of this year. Let me minimize that for a second. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. There's a CPU. Just a number of different things. You can flip through all those on your own. I'm going to go to this one because I think that White Sands is one of the absolute most amazing national parks. So definitely choose that one. Very happy that they gave us that as an option in here. And then inside of here, we have other things. If you want to turn on hot corners, I hate those things. But if you like them, hey, turn them on. It's an option. There's none by default. We do have our actions, which are new items that you can customize this menu by putting in different things. There's your desktop settings over here. So I personally like my icons on the desktop, so I'll go ahead and do that. And you can go ahead and turn those on if you prefer such things. Under our privacy here, you can remember old files. This is the check internet connectivity. By default, this pings, I believe it's off of an Ubuntu server. It just tests if the internet is working. If you're leery about that, or if you're in a high-risk place, you might consider turning that off and then just do your own internet checks, basically. You can set it to forget about old files after a certain number of days. You can set it to remember files. Those are some of the things in there. As far as your online accounts, this is actually a new application that is new to this version of Linux Mint because there were some changes in the old one that made it no longer work without running GNOME. And so they created a new X app for this, and as long as you have it installed, it will appear in your system accounts. So, of course, I use Nextcloud for my instance. I'm not going to log in here, but if I do that, it automatically syncs any compatible email client, which would be like Evolution, Geary, a few other ones. And then you can also sync your contacts and your calendars with the system as well. We also have Microsoft Personal, Microsoft 365, generic email settings. You have Google and basic web calendar settings, Microsoft Exchange. All of those things you can go ahead and set up right inside of here, and then any compatible application, you don't have to set up those same accounts elsewhere as well. So you can see what the other options are inside of your system settings. This is another place where that drive-in manager is at. Our login windows over here. This is where that software sources is at, where we change our repository from. All right, going back to this screen here, our software manager. Again, you can find that over here, or just type in your menu over here, software manager. Once again, this is a newer version of this application. The very first time you load it, it does take a little bit longer because what it's doing is it's going out, it's refreshing the package cache and downloading lists of all of the available software. So the very first time you start it, it's going to take a little bit of time to get everything populated. Future times opening it, it will be much quicker. And we also have the options for the firewall, which we need to enter our administrative settings to manage. So here, if you need to turn on your firewall, of course, if you are in public, you definitely probably want to turn that on. For me, in a home setting, I don't actually, you can see here, public, it's automatically on. If I'm here in my home area, I don't keep it on because my router is my firewall effectively. So I pretty much trust whatever's going on inside of there. All right, minimize this again. Let's have a look at our software manager. This is what makes Linux so good, is you don't have to go onto the internet to download software. You can grab software right inside of here. There are a few things that you may not find here. You need to do a little bit of internet searches. I would advise be a lot more careful about that, research a little bit, and by default, grab something from in here. Now, Linux Mint supports the Flatpak system. You'll see it defaulted to the system package, but we have a Flatpak also available for this GIMP application. A Flatpak, they are bigger, they take up more space, but they're closer to the full official release date. So if you want the absolute latest features, you might use the Flatpak version. I personally prefer system packages when I have the option. We do actually have the option inside of here, I believe. Maybe we don't. I thought we did. I thought we had the option inside of here to choose whether our default is Flatpak or whether our default is repository. But I think that was actually Discover on the new Plasma 6. I'm not completely sure. Here you go. Yeah. When an app has multiple formats, list all types, list only the Flatpak or only the system app. So you have the option as to which types if you're looking for. Now, there are these things called unverified Flatpaks. This is a little controversial in that their verification simply says this is the developer who created it. It's the same person who created the Flatpak. It doesn't mean that the software itself is actually safe, because the person who created it could have put malware into it. But this is a way to curb people creating a good known application and some third party who doesn't have anything to do with the original source from downloading it, creating the Flatpak, uploading it to the store, and uploading a tweaked version or a malicious version. So we do have to trust the software developer, but by default, it will only show you Flatpaks that are not verified. If you want to turn that on, you can do that. And then when you do that and you do a search, you will find unverified Flatpaks. So I believe Google Chrome is an example of this. So we can see that we have a Google Chrome here, and you'll see that this little red shield means that it is an unverified Flatpak. Now, what does it mean that it's unverified? Well, it just means that the person who packaged this is not Google. It is somebody else. It might be a Google employee. I don't know, but that's something. As far as how everything's working, I would probably keep that off for the most part, only turning it on if you really need to. But you can come in here and you can search for a variety of different things. Here's your various accessories. And there's a lot of different things, and you can search. So if you're like, I need email, you can go ahead and just search for email, and it's going to search for anything related to that. Here's an email reminder. Here's Thunderbird, which is installed. We have Geary. Here's a Flatpak version of Thunderbird. Here's Evolution. That's from FlatHub. I'd want to find an Evolution that's not from FlatHub. Let me click on that. Let me see if there's a system package version. This is my preferred email client. It just does everything I like it to do. We have Kmail. There's a lot of different things in here. Clausmail. That is a fork of Thunderbird. So there's a number of other options in there. So depending on what type of things you're looking for, you can go ahead and search in here, and you can find those various things that you need. So there's just a number of different things inside of your installer for software. So that is a good feature there. Whoops, actually I turned on the terminal. I meant to pull this guy up over here. So let's have a look. Here's your documentation. Here's where you get to help. There is in this one a very brand new software, and that is Matrix. So this is pulling up I think this is a web app. So you'd have to create an account for this. But if you do create an account for this, you can find our Matrix server at switchedtolinux. But what this is going to do is it connects you to the Linux Mint support forum. So if you need help, you can go over here and you can enter in. Now, this one here, you have to actually create an account in order to use this one. So that's kind of a downside, but I guess that's the best way they're doing support now. We do have the Hypnotics application. We have Rhythmbox for music, Celluloid for video. The one thing they did remove is they removed the font viewer. You'll see there's a font selector that is selecting the fonts for the system layouts. But they did remove the font viewer. I'm a little sad about that, but I recognize they did it because it was going to, once again, going to support only GNOME, so they couldn't deal with that necessarily, and there just wasn't enough need for it to actually look into another solution. But if I do actually need one, hey, I can just go on over to here, and I can type in a font viewer, and I can see what my various options are. So here's view fonts in your system. Here's a basic font viewer. So there are font viewers I can install because I'm a weird niche case who likes those things. So I'd probably install one on it when I don't have it. Web apps, you can see that the Matrix is indeed a web app. This goes through Firefox. So a web app allows you to create a container out of any website to isolate that one website as its own standalone application. It allows you to put it in the menu, shortcuts, and things like that. So under our Office, we have Calc, Draw, Impress, Writer. So there are a few applications of the LibreOffice suite which are missing, things like databasing and things like that. But you can install those if you want to. So there is our brief look overall, and it does look as though they probably got most of those bugs out of the system. There you go. Here's our notification. One of the things that they did is they did fix the issue with too many system fonts installed. So they made that quite a lot more streamlined in this particular version. And overall, I would say this is certainly looking to be one of the more stable Linux mints. Once again, as with anything, I would probably give it a little bit of time to work out any final bugs, although they have over 100 bug reports from their beta testing. So thank everybody for running your beta tests and supporting bugs. But after going through all those, we have this final build, which is absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and we'll wrap up here. I'll just show you what type of system we are running this on with system info, and then we'll have a brief look at the system monitor. So you can see Linux Mint 22, Cinnamon version 6.2.7. We have kernel 6.8. We're running this on a Ryzen 5. We have 16 gigs of RAM, and you can see our hard drive is really small. It's just a small hard drive that I had floating around. We do have the X display server. Let me go ahead and before we actually log out, let me go to our system monitor first, show you what our system resources are. So here's our system resources, and you can see that we are only running 1.4 gig. This version of Cinnamon does have experimental Wayland, so if you want to do that, go ahead and log out of your system, and then we'll log back in. And when you hit your log back in, pull over here and go down to Cinnamon on Wayland, which is experimental. Let me do that over here because my capture card is not pulling up right. So let me just do it on my capture cards. There you go. So now we'll go ahead and enter in our password. And this should start us up on Wayland now. So, of course, I need to fix my screen resolution again because capture cards are things. And we're having some Wayland issues. Yeah, like my Wayland issue. This thing seems to be stuck on. All right, can I close that now? I have no idea. Yeah, Wayland, not really a cool thing on Linux Mint right now. And again, we're not running virtualization. We're running right now. You can see here we're running under Wayland, and I'm already having issues. Oh, there you go. It finally closed itself. Look at that. I have no idea why my desktop icons can go up and down like that. I'm minimizing my desktop icons. That's exciting. I have no idea why that is. Is that a Wayland thing? I don't know. But you can play around with it, see how the system runs under Wayland. That is an option that we have. So I don't know, maybe I'll play around with it a little bit now that I have this fully installed onto an actual SSD I can play with mobily. But there is our look at Linux Mint. So look at Linux Mint 22. So with that, I realized my beautiful background colors have been turned off as I was running that. But anyway, you can go ahead and have a look at this. The download link, I did go ahead and put the download link to the 9 to 5 Linux article down below where I first saw this, and I will update the video with the official links from the Linux Mint page as soon as we see those. But go ahead and have a look at it, and I would not recommend installing this over your current system. But if you are looking to just install a new computer because you just picked one up, I wouldn't have any issues using this one. And down the road, usually about a week or two out, we will see an upgrade path. And like usual, I do have one of my full production laptops does actually push into that path as soon as it goes out, so I can get a chance to play around with it, test things out and stuff like that. So I'll be able to report to you when that is out, how well that worked. I'll run the test on my own laptop first and give you an idea of what to look out for. So there's our brief look at Linux Mint 22. We're going to do a little bit more deeper dive with stuff down the road. And we'll go ahead and have another video for that in maybe a couple days, maybe next week we'll do another video with that. With that, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.